And there we are. Let's share to the world. A happy Hanukkah to you, of course. The actual oil would cost way too much for anybody to be able to afford, thanks to Joe Biden, if you were buying it today.
Well, silly you. There have been electric menorahs for a long time.
Well, I'm a traditionalist, as you well know, and
that's a lot safer to like put in your window so you don't catch the curtains on fire.
It is, and then of course there's the fumes that are given off and etc. So how much of it did you watch on Saturday?
A lot of it.
Did you watch almost all of it?
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? What are you going to do?
It was going to end at some point. It was just a matter of when, and that's it. Meanwhile, how about them Cowboys?
Yeah, see, that was the only good football news of the whole weekend.
You're damn right it was. Oh.
And I almost would have not traded anything just for that.
Yeah.
And because after you see Jerry Jones with Bob Costas and you realize that every loss like that just eats away at him so bad, just kills him.
It was an ugly, ugly football game for it to be the most watched regular season game in 30 years or whatever. There's nothing else on.
Well, there's nothing else on every year.
Well, it is two franchises that people
wait.
I remember were good.
Yeah, well, I got a real problem with that one. Okay, we'll talk about with the famous most watched game, blah 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 blah.
I'm ready when you are.
That's good. Let me make sure my things are in.
I hope they are. If not, proctologist is just down the street.
All right. It is the Brad and Britt cast. First post-Thanksgiving Brad and Britt cast. Hope you had a good one with your family or your friends or your pets or whoever you spend your holidays with. Enough of that.
Yeah. Let's move on.
Let me just pick apart. And this is a long-standing thing I have. It doesn't come up all that often, but you'll recognize it very, very quickly. And it is the news, and we're not going to do every football game that we all got interested in over the weekend because we all have our own little thing.
Sure.
But the most delightful thing for me was the Dallas Cowboys collapsing and losing on Thanksgiving Day. Who do they play? The Raiders, right?
The Las Vegas Raiders.
And that's your favorite team. So that's a bonus for us. So the thing comes, most watched game since 1980.
Well,
right?
No, it says it's 1990. 1990 is
1990. Okay, 1990. Well, so 33.3 million or so. Right. Now, do you know how many fewer people there were in this country 30 fucking years ago to try to compare the raw number of people watching now to the raw number of people watching 30 years ago? It's bullshit. You can't do that. You must adjust for the number of humans. There must be another 50 million fucking people in the country. So yes, you would assume some of them are watching who did not exist.
But there's a rate of attrition too. So certain people have died. So you have to make the adjustment over the past 31 years. How many people have died versus how many people are born? What's the net?
No, Mr. Flunked Math. It's the total number of people.
So what is your actual pitch here? What is
the churn? It's not the churn.
What's your actual bitch on this? Nobody gets this. Nobody understands what you're talking about.
Everybody understands it. Only you don't understand.
You're talking about a share of the audience versus the actual
it wasn't a
raw
share,
number.
Britt. It's not a fucking share. They're giving the number of viewers
as a share of the population is what you're fucking bitching about, which is stupid as shit. The raw number is the raw number, and it goes back 31 years. That's it. Period. Zip. End of story. Full stop. Now you're like complaining. So what do you think? What would you think the actual number should be? What would you accept as the actual number? I'm curious.
But you don't give the raw number. Back in our radio days, right? It wasn't the number of listeners. It was the share that you had.
It was the
you
beauty
got your
contest.
Bonus based on, Britt. What do we get our bonus based on? We got it on the share, the percentage of people in the universe. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if there are, and I'm not letting this one go. I'm going to beat this into your head. Okay. You ready? There are now 330 million people in
so this doesn't count. This doesn't count.
Will you let me finish, you dick? There are now 330 million people in this country. If 33 million people were watching, that's really, about 1 in 10 people, right? We're watching.
Mm-hmm.
If 30 years ago, there were, say, 280 million people, right? And 30 million people were watching. Guess what? That's a higher percentage of that number that existed then were watching then. You cannot compare the raw number and say, well, now more people watch than ever before. Technically, yes, but it doesn't mean anything. It's a bullshit, pumped up lie. It's bullshit. It's like saying, it's like popular vote, right?
No.
It's popular vote compared now versus what Roosevelt got in 1942. Hey,
that was always the claim.
A lot more votes than he's more popular than Roosevelt. Fuck, there are more people now voting than there were when Roosevelt was.
Well, that was a little bit, but it's not, because the Trump people always like to claim that more people voted for him than any other, president that was elected president.
Right, and it means nothing.
And
it meant nothing.
Well, it was wrong.
Right, you got it.
It was wrong. It was wrong. It was wrong partially because the person he ran against got more votes than him. I mean, that was just an absolute fact. Both times that he ran.
Reason that's wrong. It's just wrong anyway.
It's just period. That's the population of the United States in 1990 was 249.6 million. 249.6 million.
Hang on, Britt. So the population is 30 some percent higher now than it was then. So let's do the math here. If only 25 million people were watching then, 30% of 25 is
six. It's about 6, 7.
Yeah. Do you get it yet? Do you understand what I'm saying?
But you still.
And this is why you flunked math. This is why you flunked math if you can't get this.
No, I got a degree just like you did from a fantastic university. With a strong 2.7 GPA. My team didn't lose to Michigan over the weekend, my schools. But this may be what is pissing you off. What do you think the real number should be? So you just call bullshit on it, but you don't really have a solution for it. Like, the real number should be what? What should the real number be?
I'm not telling you what the real number should be. The real numbers.
I'll help you out. I'll help you out. If we have whatever was the raw number of human beings who watch the show. I think they said 38 million. Is that what you're talking about? 38 million? Well, let's reduce that by 30%. Since, as you say, the population was X amount. So in fact, we take 9 away. Only 29 or 28 million people saw this football game on Thanksgiving Day. Would you accept that as a number? In real terms. In real terms. Comparing apples to apples.
If you adjusted it backwards for what the population was then.
Would you accept that?
That's how you have to do it.
So you're saying 29 million. So is that impressive or not impressive to you?
By the way, that's why Roger Maris got the asterisk. Unfortunately, technically it was accurate. He had way more games. He had 9 more games to hit one more home run than Babe Ruth. So Babe Ruth was still the home run king, wasn't he? Really? Come on.
Really, it's sad that you're pitching now for the asterisk. You're on the side of the asterisk. That's what you're doing right now. Is you're on the side of the asterisk.
For raw statistical reasons, yes, the asterisk was right. And by the way, football statistics now totally mean nothing. Running back statistics mean nothing. You can't compare people who are playing in 16, 17, 18 season games over their career versus guys who were playing in 12 and 14.
I'll give you this much. I'll give you this one. When they talk about like, oh, Steph Curry has like X number of wins in playoff games over anybody that's ever played the game. It's like, oh my God, they play 50 times more games in the playoffs than they did in the 70s and 60s. Of course. God almighty.
You're getting it. You're right where I want you to be, because when you watch the baseball playoffs, what do? They say, well, Alex Rodriguez has the most hits in postseason of anybody ever, right? Well, that's because there are 9 levels of playoffs that Ted Williams never played in, that Joe DiMaggio never played in, that Pete Rose never played in.
Exactly.
So now you're getting it. Yeah, now you understand it. I'm buying you a pizza. What do you want on your pizza? What do you want on your pizza?
Anything but pineapple. Let's talk about something of way less importance, and that is, of course, the strain of the coronavirus that's coming to kill us all. We didn't even know the word Omicron a few days ago. Now it is on everyone's lips. I believe it is pronounced Omicron. It rushes to impose travel bans. There's a story in CNN. It has been spotted. I think they have 2 cases that, from what I'm seeing in my information, in Canada. Obviously, it's coming to the United States. It's going to be a thing. And your thoughts in broad about what we're seeing with Omicron. The markets reacted very negatively toward it on Friday. The markets are doing much better today. What are your thoughts in general on Omicron?
Well, first of all, it would have been a much better name than Meta for Facebook to change, right?
Omicron.
Yes. Just forget that it's now the virus name. But I think it's one of the Greek letters, right? I think that's how they got it.
They skipped a few and then they just picked this one. I don't know why they picked this one, but it got there.
The charge is that the letters that they skipped over invoked China and President Xi.
Which I think is pronounced Chi in the Greek alphabet, but nonetheless, they got to Omicron.
Right, which of course brings up the first of the conspiracy theories that we'll get to on this. That ain't the only one.
I'll just say that, but I just want to say this. I've never heard, like, on any college campus anywhere, there was no fraternity or sorority that used Omicron, right? It was they never used that letter when they had their shit, right? It was always Gamma, Lambda, it was Chi, it was Psi. They would do all that shit. Never Omicron. Always Omega. Omega was in there, but never fucking Omicron. Not one time.
Well, I don't know that alphabet at all, but so both of those are O's, so I don't get it at all. No.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. But of course, back in Greek days, there were more letters. Don't you know you have to adjust for the number of letters?
What was the Greek population? What was that Greek population?
Oh, boy. Well, clearly, it's already here, and we just don't know it yet. And there will be, at some point, it could be later today or tomorrow, the next day, the announcement. And the letters will be on a billboard near you, as big as King Kong's brain. They'll be huge. They'll be gigantic. And hopefully we've learned this lesson, because we've had this happen a couple of times now with other mutations, that just because you officially discover the first few cases, and it'll be in South Carolina or Arizona, it doesn't matter. That doesn't change anything from the way it was 2 hours before. It's just that we have physical confirmation of what we know. And we also know that this attempt to close the barn door after the horse is out never works. This shutting down countries, trying to shut down travel after people have already been moving around with something that we didn't know existed for whatever amount of time, it just doesn't work. And I have a lot of sympathy for South Africa on this. And by the way, since I'm into complete nitpicking today, I would like to let the media know that there is a difference between South Africa and Southern Africa. Mm-hmm. Southern Africa is the lower part of that continent. It includes many countries, 8 or 10 countries. South Africa is the name of a country.
One country.
And listen to the ignorant morons in broadcasting who talk about these countries in South Africa are now not allowed to fly. Really? Are you that dumb? Do you not know? The answer is yes, they are, and they don't know. But back to the point. I think that what this really does is it shines the important spotlight on what really matters, which is that at least half of the world has yet to get any vaccine, let alone just that meaningless statistic, how many have at least one shot. I don't know why we even bother with that one. But half the world is not vaccinated. Much of that is in Africa and in Asia and and I'm not sure whether we should even count ourselves among the developed countries anymore. Do you think the United States is a developed country anymore? I think we're pretty fucking undeveloped because, we're at the bottom of the list of the so-called rich countries, right? We are. We have we're like 60% total pop. So we have all these resistors here. And by the way, in South Africa, the country, not South Africa, the play, or not South Africa, the book.
Yeah.
But in South Africa, where they do have a very well-developed medical establishment. It's a modern country, but at the same time, it's a very poor country, still very divided, and all kinds of problems.
It's weird. The United States used to be a developed country, and then the internet came along, and the internet is actually what undeveloped us.
Wait, is there a word called de-develop? Like double developed? We've regressed. Yeah. Anyway, so South Africa discovers it first. This new strain, and they do exactly what we want them to do, which is make it public, get the information out there so other countries, the drug companies can all get to work very, very quickly, as quickly as possible to address it. And our first response is to say, well, obviously you started it. It's like the Spanish flu. Let's blame the Spanish for the Spanish flu of 1918, or as Trump says, 1917. Let's blame a country. So they're complaining that they're being singled out for actually doing the right thing. Yeah, it's like throwing the second punch in the NBA. It's the second guy that always gets suspended, unless you're LeBron James.
Shots fired.
So I think they have a valid complaint here for doing the right thing. But we're definitely on this faster. And the stakes, while they're as high, if not higher, because we don't know whether it's going to produce more disease that is more difficult to treat, whether it really, really spreads that much more quickly, it might, and whether the current vaccines are as effective, or at least effective enough against it. We don't know all those answers yet.
No.
But I think we're doing as good a job as we can. But the fact that not just the United States, the whole developed world, while we said it was critical to get the world vaccinated, no one's safe until everyone is safe. All those wonderful cliches we've been hearing for a year. Now it turns out, that's right. South Africa is a kind of a first world and a third world country rolled into one. And they have more vaccine resistance there than maybe any country on earth because of the history of apartheid and not trusting the established authorities on anything. So if we're going to have all these people around the world, no matter what you say, no matter what you tell them, they say we're not going to get vaccinated, I'm not quite sure where that leaves the rest of us, except to just keep following the best science that we can and try to convince them. But if we're a year into this, we're almost a year into the knowledge of the vaccine, and barely half the world is vaccinated, and the other half of the world is now this laboratory that will just keep producing new mutations, and they're going to keep showing up. So we have to figure out a way to live with this.
But it's again, the solution you're talking about. It's the lockdown stuff is not the solution. It's a tool in the Swiss Army knife. But the answer is always so boring, Brad, and people don't want to do it. And no, we don't learn. Got to wear your mask. Got to get vaccinated. Got to wash your hands. Stay inside when you can. Don't get into huge groups and start coughing on people and breathing on people. And people don't want to hear that. There's so much fatigue with that. But that's the exact answer. That's what's going to keep this thing under control.
Right. Yeah. There's no. And plus, so far, nothing has really changed in terms of who is dying. Certainly in the United States, from this, it's almost exclusively the unvaccinated. But the number of breakthrough cases just continues to go up. The Delta version is a tough one. It's a tough one. But if you're vaccinated, pretty good chance you're not going to die.
Right.
Pretty good chance you're not going to be in the hospital. Pretty good chance your symptoms are going to be handleable at home, even if you're miserable for 10 days or 2 weeks. And that's the point. And that hasn't changed, and that's not likely to change almost no matter what we find out here over the next few weeks about the new version, the Omicron?
Omicron. There is no N. Omicron, which again...
Sounds like an ad agency too, right?
It does. But there are various conspiracy theories that have been floated about this Omicron. One of them is from, you'll remember the former physician to the White House, the guy who pronounced Donald Trump the healthiest man ever to hold the office of president. Ronnie Jackson.
How long was he supposed to live, Britt? How long was Trump going to live?
120. I think 120 was what we were predicting.
I thought it was 200.
Might be 200. Ronnie Jackson, who now finds himself a congressman from West Texas, he says this is the midterm election variant, and the Democrats have dreamed up this particular variant in order to win midterm elections because this is going to be more mail-in voting, and that's where the Democrats cheat like motherfuckers, and that's Ronnie Jackson, and he has a lot of people who are also signing off on this as well, Brad.
Well, let me just say this. Sometimes something out of the past has to be buried and reformulated for the present. And the phrase wacko jacko used to apply to who?
Michael Jackson. The late Michael Jackson.
The late Michael Jackson. Now, Michael Jackson has been dead for at least, 10 years?
Sure.
So I think we can move the phrase wacko jacko.
Ronnie Jackson.
To former White House physician. And remember who hired Wacko Jacko to be the White House physician. It was Barack Obama. This is a thanks Obama. And I've never heard anybody question Obama directly about what his relationship was with Ronnie Jackson. Was he a much more responsible person? Has he lost his mind? Has he been drinking all this time? Has he used drugs? Because I can't imagine Obama abiding by someone who we've seen his public behavior, certainly, over the last 5-6 years be unbelievably erratic and undependable and incompetent, that Obama would allow this guy to examine him or render judgment on him. But
touch
again,
him.
That's another book. That's another book.
Don't even touch me, Ronnie Jackson. And where the fuck did you get your medical degree from? I mean,
Right. So, he of course gets himself a sweet gerrymandered gig down in the land of Texas.
Yeah.
And lands in Congress, which is kind of the last refuge, I guess, for people who have nothing else to do. Right. I don't know. It's kind of beyond belief. And now he's so Trumpy that like it almost redefines it that you would be this way, and he's full conspiracy theory on this. But just think for 1 second, and we know that the Democrats are just the most brilliant strategists. They are 5 steps ahead of all of us.
Clearly,
the way they think about shit, right?
Easily.
So only Congressman Ronnie Wacko Jacko Jackson can see around corners and behind steel walls that have lead on them, so that no matter, like Superman, to realize that the Democrats do have this brilliant idea that right now, about 1 year out from the 2022 elections, their best bet to hold on to Congress is to intentionally, and by the way, with help from countries all over the world volunteering to help the Democratic Party, start a new strain of the coronavirus to cause complete economic breakdown and lockdowns and the inability of people to move around. And my head's exploding just trying to think how stupid this is and how stupid we are, again, to even entertain what this guy is saying, because this is what they want. They want this out there in the water. They want it out there. They want to sow doubt in the whole system. They want to burn it down. You know, this is the Steve Bannon. This is the Steve Bannon playbook, and a lot of them have read it. A lot of white power people read the Turner Diaries to get their ideas on how to overthrow the government.
Right.
That's the famous book. But apparently a lot of these folks have read the book of Steve Bannon, which is, in the end, to throw as much shit at the wall as you can and flood the zone with bullshit. That's what the Steve Bannon plan is. And that's what you see he's doing, and Mark Meadows is doing, and the rest of them are doing, and trying not to cooperate with the House committee that has subpoenaed them, and in Bannon's case, gotten them indicted through the Justice Department. They don't care.
No.
They don't care. And this is kind of just an interesting little sidelight out there, this Ronnie Jackson thing down there in Texas, throwing that out there on the floor and seeing where it will go. And the answer, of course, it goes nowhere, but it speaks to a major problem, if I may add on right now. And I didn't see this until, maybe yesterday or the day before, but we have a relatively new letter that has been put out there by, let's see, how many? It's 180 Congress people across the country. 180 people across the country, all Republicans, of course, and it includes 31 members of the North and South Carolina legislatures that have put out their plan to still overturn the 2020 election for Donald Trump. This was a couple days ago. And one of the people who is behind it here in our state, North Carolina, is that whack job from Gastonia, that Donnie Loftus, who was at the riot,
the insurrection,
on January 6th.
Yeah.
He was there. He says he got gassed 3 times.
Yeah.
But of course he didn't approve of all the violence that was there. Now, of course, all the states have done their own audits, everything. There's nothing to the assertions that they make in this. This is our historic obligation to restore the election integrity of the vote as the bedrock of our constitutional republic. Blah, blah, blah. Just crap. Just garbage. Just garbage. But they won't stop.
No.
They will not stop. And this letter, at least in our state and in South Carolina, was not signed by the leaders of the Republican houses and the 2 Senate chambers, the 2 upper chambers in those.
Well, I'm sure that in that case they're going to sanction those people. The leaders are going to sanction those people that did sign that letter.
Well,
Brad.
No, they'll do what they do. They'll do what Kevin McCarthy does. Nothing. They'll just say nothing.
Zero.
But what this really tells you and tells me and should tell you is that there is now a foundation, a bedrock of insanity in whatever is left of the Republican Party that is going to keep going. And I'm not sure how it gets stamped out. I don't know how you get them to participate in our system without threatening that very system on almost a daily basis. And why would you want to even be a part of a system that you don't believe in? What is that all about? But the fact that, here we are, we're a year past the election, right? We're well past a year past the election, and you're still beating that dead horse. It's over. It's done. It was done by November 9th, right? November 8th, November 9th, when the final result was announced, and they've never stopped. And this is just throwing out as much shit as they can to keep the doubt level as high as possible among people, to undermine the country. James Madison had no idea that this is what would happen. He didn't. How could he have known?
It's impossible. There's a bit of projection here, because some of the people now who can't get over it were the ones that were telling folks on the other side to get over it in the year 2000, when the election was clearly stolen from Al Gore. But now these are the people. These are the Republicans really are perfectionists when it comes to not being able to get over things, such as the Confederate flag in the Civil War. They just can't get over anything ever.
Well, yeah, and maybe that's the problem, that even that was starting to get a little bit long in the tooth after 150 years.
We need something new we can't get over.
Right. And of course, the false equivalency to the year 2000, or the false equivalency to 2016,
exactly,
it's just towering, because after the 3 months, or the 2 months, I guess it took for the Supreme Court to install George W. Oh, of course, if I use the word install, that means there I go.
So loaded.
Right. That to this day, there are Supreme Court justices and other scholars of equal rank and expertise. And I don't even think that the Supreme Court justices, you would say, are naturally the best experts in election law itself, would say that that's one of the worst decisions in the history of the U.S. Supreme Court. It just was. It just was. But I don't recall, after the final call was made, and after within hours, Al Gore went on TV and made what had to have been the most impossibly difficult speech of his life, saying, I don't like it, I hate it, I don't agree with it, but I accept it.
No, what happened was Al Gore said, I want all of my followers to come down in their vegetable oil-filled mopeds, and I want them to storm that Capitol and break a bunch of fucking windows. Right. I see you're not remembering. You don't remember your history.
I know. I don't know what I was thinking. I must have been drinking.
That's what happened.
And that was it. There is no comparison. Just think about that. Yes. Are there always people who are pissed off about things of that sort? Yes. Britt, you're pissed off about the game up in Massachusetts between the Raiders and the Patriots, where it was snowing.
I'll never get over that.
What was that, 20 years ago already?
Hey, it's like 18 years ago, and 18 or 19 years ago. I tried to watch it. The NFL Network had it on like a couple of years ago, and I was like, I'll just watch it. I was like 2 seconds in, I'm like, fuck this. I can't watch this.
The Patriots win all these games that way. So but you have managed to somehow move your life forward since that moment.
And I've never challenged. I've never really challenged the outcome and like gone to the NFL offices and try to burn them down and shoot people. I haven't done any of that. Somehow.
So I think that's the overall game that we should be aware of, that we are in an unprecedented time of assault on the very idea of democracy as it has been practiced but never perfected in the United States. We all like to say, well, this is an ongoing experiment. We're always trying to make it better. It's never perfect. And that's kind of the general agreement. Even in the face of the most violent, horrible protests or assassinations or anything, we say we're gonna get through this and get to a better place. I don't feel that these people have that idea in mind in what they're trying to do here, in undermining the election, in undermining the process of elections going forward, in trying to make it very clear that there is nothing that they will not do to keep themselves in elective office and deny any Democrat from winning any election ever. By definition now, any Democrat that wins any race has, and this is down to the local level up to the U.S. Senate or governorships or the presidency, Democrats only can win by cheating. They're the cheaters. It's not us.
Yeah.
And this is Orwellian
projection,
crazed upside down twisting of truth. And they do it over and over, and they don't stop. And the Ronnie Jackson thing is just a perfect little tiny example. Just another matchstick on the fire there.
Well, you get in these situations and people will tell you, well, that's just one guy and he's not a very powerful congressman, whatever. And then eventually they poll this thing a couple months down the road and they say to Republican voters, do you believe the Democrats are making this up, try to win midterm? And a surprising 30, 40, 50% of the people will, I think the Democrats will do that. I think that's what this is. So it's always, from our point of view, too stupid to talk about, but it always laces itself into the water supply. Every single time. There's no question that this is so dumb that nobody could ever see this happening. But it always winds its way into the discussion, and you eventually do have to answer this stuff. I mean, the game that they play is that, when the crazy bus keeps going, are you going to get off on this stop? You're going to get off this stop? You're going to get off on this stop? You remember on January the 6th, Joe Manchin was hanging out with some Republicans, and they were seeing what was happening with people breaking windows, trying to kill Mike Pence, and et cetera, et cetera. And when everything kind of got under control, Mike Pence said, well, you boys okay? Are you still going to challenge the election results? And several of them were like, no, we're good. We're out. We're going to – and even Lindsey Graham, I'm out. I'm done. But the Josh Hawley contingent of the Republican Party was like, fuck that. I'm full steam ahead. I'm not off the bus. We're going to plunge this motherfucker off the cliff. So – it becomes, it always has been for a number of years, the BG's I started a joke. And then after a while, it ain't a joke anymore, but they continue to play this thing time and time and time again. I found this was a very interesting article. It's actually in Salon. Republicans hate freeloaders. They hate people who collect checks without doing anything.
Wait a minute.
The Republicans they don't like it. The person sitting on the couch smoking weed watching Maury Povich is like a thing when it comes to Republican voters. It's often based in race, going back to the welfare queens of the Ronald Reagan era, right? They just don't like that. They've changed the unemployment benefits rule in places like Florida, Iowa, Kansas, and Tennessee. If you get fired or if you quit over a vaccine mandate, you can still get unemployment. Specifically, they've changed those rules so that people who were too stupid to get vaccinated can go ahead and collect unemployment checks. So Republicans are now, they're motivating people to sit on their asses at home and get other people sick, by the way, and get checks from the government. It's unbelievable.
By the way, I thought that was the Democrats' job.
That's what I thought too. Again, the world is turned upside down.
They didn't want anybody to work. They don't like jobs. They don't like
exactly.
Work. They just get people free money. But to add in the current events sweetener of quitting your job, because you refuse to be vaccinated,
right?
Which, at least in the world I used to live in, I don't know, I think you lived in it too. The rule was, first of all, if you quit for any reason, you don't get
checked.
You get
nope.
Right.
Nope.
And if you add this in now, you're taking it up to a whole new level. This is a whole new level using a system of financial incentives of taxpayer financial incentives. In other words, the vaccinated are working and paying taxes that would go into the part of the unemployment insurance fund that might then be turned around and used to pay people who are unvaccinated to leave their jobs and legitimately collect unemployment. I'm not sure. I'll give you 10 seconds. Can you think of something worse than that? Come on.
Forget it. 10 seconds. Forget it. I'm not even going to try. That's ridiculous.
Not possible.
No. It's an unbelievable standard that they've set, but they're following this bullet train right down to hell.
But these are unitary Republican controlled states, right? Where the governor and the name those states again, so we're sure that we're right when we say this.
It was Tennessee, Florida, Iowa, Kansas. They have changed their unemployment insurance rules to allow workers who are fired or quit over vaccine mandates to receive benefits. This is also Axios is reporting this.
Right. Kansas might have a Democratic governor, but he might be a squish. He might be a squish rollover, and he might be under a situation where his veto might not mean anything. But the other states are definitely 100% Republican. I know.
Laura Kelly is the governor of the great state of Kansas. She is a Democrat.
Yeah. And of course, by the way, but you can put that up in the things that I know, information that I know that really does me no good.
That's not going to make you any money at all.
There's no value.
That's the shit that's in my head. I've got a lot of stuff in my head, but none of it can make me a damn bit of money. That's what happens to me. She, you recall this because she was the one that recruited that crazy ass Chris Kobach. She was the one that beat that guy, who was completely and totally insane. So all she had to do was be slightly less crazy than that son of a bitch, and then she was okay, right? That's that is what's happening. So again, these are among the things that are too stupid for us to talk about, but yet they are, they're things that meander and make themselves part of the discussion, part of the vernacular, and part of the narrative that's going on as people were able to get the things that they needed for Thanksgiving to eat.
I think so.
Despite Joe Biden trying to destroy this economy, right?
Right. You know what? I'm glad you brought that up because considering the torrent, the fire hose of bullshit news that people were just not going to, first of all, they weren't going to be able to go places. Gas was too high. No one was going to travel. Of course, that turned out to be true. More people traveled this time than ever before, right? Going back a couple years. And more people flew and everybody sucked it up and everybody was able to get you walked into any grocery store, at least in our area, the day before Thanksgiving. I know this because I was in them.
It was
there were more turkeys. There were a zillion turkeys. What was the fake turkey shortage story all about? Could you explain that one? What
I don't know.
Was that like the war on Christmas? Was that a fake war on Christmas kind of story?
Well, we make these jokes all the time, and they turn out to be absolutely real. And now I think they're running with the ball that Joe Biden's trying to kill the supply chain so that people won't worship God and be able to celebrate Christmas and have toys for their kids and shit like that. And that's I get the feeling that all these turkeys finally made it, and they had to just cut the price amazingly, like on Saturday and Sunday and today, in order to get rid of this shit, right? And then they were left with way too many turkeys in the store.
I do have a solution to the nightmarish, unprecedented supply chain problem leading up to Christmas, which is going to destroy it for millions of Americans who will be unable to get the things that they want and that they need so that their families can have a very happy Christmas morning when the kids come down early and tear open those presents. Here's an idea. Because now, of course, there won't be any presents, right? That's what we're led. They're just shit. You can't get. Nothing is moving out of China. Okay.
What's the solution? Hit me with the solution.
Go to any store.
Yeah.
Any store.
Yeah.
It can be a big one. It can be a little one. It can be a medium-sized one. Go in there and buy something that you see. This is an idea. You buy it when you see it and you take it home or you get it wrapped there in the store, they'll charge you to wrap it. They're very good at that.
Yeah, they do that. Yeah.
And you take it home. And here's this thing. I know this stuff. You hide it.
No.
So the kids don't see it.
Where's a good place to hide it? Like a closet, attic, basement?
I don't know. Maybe in the trunk of the car. It doesn't matter. And then on Christmas Day, you take it out and you put it under the tree, and you've solved the supply chain problem. In other words, this is the broad idea. Why don't you just select from what is there? This is like a mass
you can't
Cabbage Patch doll crisis moment for America. Remember when you had to have whatever there
Pikachu or whatever whatever
the year was, Beanie Baby, no Beanie Babies.
Tickle me Elmo. That was a big one. Yeah.
Believe me, when your kid is, I have two. One's 29, one's 32. Whatever happened under the Christmas tree or the Hanukkah bush or whatever it was when they were 5, 6, 7, 8. By the way, Hanukkah Charlie. You know who Hanukkah Charlie is.
I don't know Hanukkah Charlie.
He's Santa Claus's Jewish friend. If Hanukkah Charlie disappoints, when your kid 25 years from now is the age of my kid, whatever happened will not come back to haunt them or you. They will not hold it against you. Whatever you got them, it will be long forgotten.
Are you sure?
Kids will get over it.
Are you
so
sure?
Go buy
whatever
the hell is there.
But Joe Biden can't make a speech and go, would you guys stop whining? There's a lot of good shit out there. Just pick some of the good shit. He can't say that. I mean, he should. He should.
But why can we say that, Britt? Why
we're on a podcast.
We're on a podcast.
Now,
we're not accountable to everybody.
You may have missed this. Everybody may have missed this on Friday because they were living their lives and doing more important things, possibly traveling and so on and so forth. That weekly jobless claim plunged to the lowest level in more than 50 years. Now, I know it doesn't count because the population of the United States 50 years ago, in 1969, was way less than it is today. But the narrative that Joe Biden is fucking everything up, he's a bumbling idiot, he doesn't know what he's doing, this economy, all of this shit. Look at that. 1969, Brad. Lowest level since 1969. That's impressive.
Well, of course it is, but it means nothing when people every day when they leave their house see, $3.87 for gas.
Yeah, it
means nothing to them. They do not care. You're not going to have an intellectual economic discussion with people who are working and trying to make ends meet, however difficult that is, to tell them that because the number of people who, the number of jobs, what the fuck number was that? 199?
199,000 people.
Yeah. Is the lowest since 19. They don't care. It means nothing. It's just a bit. You know what it's like? It's as meaningless to most people right now, day to day, as it's going to be meaningless when we do get to 1 million people dead in this country.
No.
Coronavirus, because what is it, about 775, 780 right now?
Right.
So we're on the road to 1 million, almost no matter what. And you know what? It won't mean anything. It won't mean anything unless you know somebody.
Why are the Democrats not any good at getting the messages out like that? Like the unemployment thing down. I know inflation's not a great thing right now. Why are the Democrats not very good at telling stories when they get positive news like that?
Well, they're just not as good at liars. They're not as good at distorting.
Yeah.
They're not.
Yeah.
They're not, and they overthink things. But the fact is, if you can't do it in a 3-word slogan, the American people, for the most part, will not want to digest it. They don't want to hear it. Gas prices high.
That's it.
Meat too expensive.
Right.
Right. Rent too high.
Too damn high.
Got kicked out.
Yeah.
Can't buy car. No babysitters available. If any more than 3 words, and you can't do it. Well, the unemployment rate is the lowest it's been actually since early in the Trump year. No, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Because my raise, I've seen a couple of these letters to the editor already from old people on Social Security. They're already bitching. Listen to this. They are already bitching that Social Security, which is going up, I think, 5.5% starting in 2022, because where inflation has been, that's how they calculate it.
Mm-hmm.
They're already bitching that it's not enough, because they also have to pay for Medicare, and that the cost of Medicare is going up by $40. They're making this calculation. Say it's not fair. It's not fair, and so that overrides any other economic number for a ton of people, because all they see is what is in their life. And it's understandable, and that's how most people vote.
Yeah.
But then if Republicans do that and Democrats do that, Republicans are also better at adding on the social issues and the wedge issues, because Republicans do and have been voting for 40 years on right-wing judges.
Yeah.
Elect me, and we will reverse Roe versus Wade.
That's it.
They've been going on that one for 50 years, and it's effectively, possibly about to happen. I mean, Clarence Thomas could just have a heart attack and drop that right there. His dying wish to overturn Roe versus Wade may about to be happening with the Mississippi case that they're hearing. I think, is it this week or next week?
Yeah, it's pretty soon.
So, the Democrats try to appeal to your head. The Republicans appeal to your gut. And people vote on their gut. They don't appeal on op-ed pieces in the New York Times. They mean nothing. They just don't mean anything. And you're going to have to get past that. I did see one final piece. I just saw it. There's Matt Bai today in the Washington Post. He said, God damn it, they're trying to throw Joe Biden overboard already, the Democrats. They're already throwing in the towel on this guy again for the 100th time. When are they going to learn their fucking lesson? Don't give up on Joe Biden. Do not give up, because now of course he's not going to run. He can't run. Why would he run? He'd lose if he ran. But he's the only guy that can beat Trump. If Trump runs, my head is about to explode. And I am not, and you have not heard on this Brad and Britt cast, us giving up on Joe Biden or attacking him for all of the spurious reasons that are out there. There it is. The headline from Matt Bai in the opinion piece. Panic Democrats are ready to shove Biden aside again. Right. Because, done it several times. They did it in the 80s, with the plagiarism thing, all this kind of shit where they've thrown Biden overboard and he never got any traction. And he finally stuck with it long enough and got elected president. This is not when you throw in the towel on him. Now, it is certainly possible. It's certainly possible in the next 3 years he really will decide that he just doesn't have whatever it takes to continue to be president physically. That's certainly possible, and no one would fault him if he said, I would love to do it, but I think I just can't get there. Because I know you've seen this. Jimmy Carter, I think it was 2 years ago, when Carter was a young, sprightly 95, Carter was asked,
yeah,
and I think he was asked about Biden.
He was.
Or Trump. He said,
this was attempted to be shoved up Biden's ass, by the way.
Right. Carter said, when I was 80, there's no way I would have had the energy to be president. That was Jimmy Carter speaking for himself.
Yeah, he would have been about as energetic an 80-year-old as you could ever imagine. Jimmy Carter would have been as well.
But that was just him. But that was his own thing. But if Joe Biden makes the decision that he can do it and he checks out with the doctors, he'll probably run again. And of course, now it's being framed as, well, if he doesn't run, and automatically Kamala Harris is not the anointed one, then the Democrats are more racist than the Republicans. They're already setting that up.
Yeah,
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's great.
Holy shit for brains. Oh my God. If George H.W. Bush had decided he was really going to quit after one term instead of running for re-election in 1992, do you think that Dan Quayle would have automatically been the nominee for the Republican Party?
I don't feel like that would happen. I don't think they would have done that. No, I don't see that. I don't see that happening.
No, but I guess it's different here. There are other factors in play, as we know. Well, all right, we've done a lot of damage for our first day back here.
Sure we have.
It feels good. It looks good, and everything is okay. And you know what? When you get 3 full meals, 3 full dinners out of one turkey, it's pretty good.
You're in good shape. You're doing all right.
It's pretty good. And I'll tell you, I was under a lot of pressure. Here's why. Because I was bragging to my kids and Jane. You know, I bought that turkey at Harris Teeter when they had that 29 cents a pound sale.
Yeah, that's right.
So the turkey was about a 14 pounder. So adjusted for 1990 prices, so the turkey was only $5. It was only $5, right? And they were going to kill me if it turned out to be a bad turkey because you went cheap. It was. Guess what? It was the same fucking turkey. They're all the same. They're all the same. Turkeys are not like having a better college degree or a nicer car. No, they're all the same.
They absolutely are.
They all go to the same elementary school and learn the same stuff. So
remember the Sarah Palin video where they were killing the turkeys behind her during that interview and they were bleeding them out. That's a great one.
I was listening to Pod Save America, Favreau and the other guy, and they're talking about the fact that writing jokes for the annual turkey pardoning thing was one of the most ridiculous, painful, and stupid things that they had to do.
Had to be.
You just have to come up with 100 bad puns over and over again. It was just dreadful. They really did not like having to do that, but they did it.
That's funny.
Why do we keep doing the turkey part? Because we've always done it now. Does that go back to Roosevelt? Franklin?
Maybe it was Truman. I think it was Truman that was actually the guy that did that. Maybe. And then
because he couldn't nuke them.
We'll see you tomorrow.
He wanted to nuke them.
He was gonna